Okay, so the idea of these video series is to answer questions we receive as coaches via email or in person in the gym, as well as just try to put out information that typically is or concepts I should say, they're very misunderstood in the fitness industry. Time and time again, we answer the same questions via email or in person, and there's just a gross misunderstanding of how the body works and how training relates to the body. So these short videos will be combinations of either questions that have been asked via email or in person. It'll be particular to either what the programming is reflecting at the time, large concepts, misconceptions. It can cover anything from exercise instruction and execution to nutrition to big picture programming ideas. And so I think one of the first things we want to cover is warrior cycles. And so Jordan's been handling the programming now pretty much for the past 1.5 to 2 years. He's been the lead programmer with the exception of like some transition cycles. And one of the things that we've done, 3 of them now in the past, about to do our 4th one, is something called the warrior cycle. These are long, comprehensive, multi-phase macro cycles that have different, emphasis each time we do them. But what we want to do is kind of get an idea of what, from a programming perspective, what is the big picture idea and purpose behind the warrior cycles?
Yeah, so the big idea behind a warrior cycle is to essentially bring periodization into the training facility, into the weight room. If you look on really all high-level training regimens, you have some aspect of periodization. Now, on the endurance side of things, especially with endurance sports, really they have done a very good job of codifying how to periodize for endurance sports. But also on, like, let's say, the powerlifting side, they've done a really good job of periodizing that. And to a certain degree, bodybuilders as well. Now, what is the common thing between all of these sports? The common thing is that they all have essentially one thing that they're looking to do. In an endurance sport, you're looking to travel over ground via whatever mode you may be doing as fast as possible. So you're trying to raise your average power to be as high as it can for the distance or duration that you have to maintain it. In a powerlifting competition, you're trying to lift as much weight as you can. All right, there's no endurance aspect to it. It's one thing as heavy as you can for 3 lifts. And then on the bodybuilding side, they also periodize or time their nutrition. So there is another aspect of it there, but it's coinciding with the like cutting and then building their aesthetics, building their symmetry as they get ready for their meets.
For the layperson, obviously, if you work in strength and conditioning field, you know what periodization means.
Right.
Give us kind of just that basic definition when we talk about periodization, what we're trying to accomplish and what it really means.
Periodization is the building and peaking of a fitness attribute. Now, whenever you periodize multiple fitness attributes, then you have to balance those fitness attributes. You cannot periodize or you cannot peak every single fitness attribute at the same time. Now, peaking and periodization are not, those terms don't mean the same thing. Periodization is the period of time you go through to build, first of all, your ability to do it, and then utilize your ability to maximize that activity. So, for example, in a power lifter, if they're going to periodize, then they're going to build their capacity to lift, and then they're going to utilize as much of that capacity to increase their 1RMs as high as it will go. Now, what the warrior cycles is doing is it's marrying the periodization of the strength side of things and the metabolic side of things, because as a gym that is trying to build the most complete athlete, to build your fitness the most comprehensively, we have to not only build your strength, but we also have to build your metabolic output as well.
Which is the conditioning aspect, work capacity, endurance, stamina, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Right. And so the warrior cycles use a very simple format to periodize our training allocation of time over the period of a cycle. And so we may start out, for example, with 70% metabolic work and 30% strength work. And then over the course of that cycle, we look to build up to like 80% of our training emphasis being on strength and 20% being on conditioning. So the time that we've spent doing conditioning work has decreased, and the time and emphasis on doing strength work has increased. And then within that, we do some other things as well. There's some shifting of some other types of training within there. But that's the basic idea behind a warrior cycle. We wanted a very simple way to simplify periodization and to be able to do that simultaneously with two discrete and very different sides of the fitness house, strength and conditioning.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's something that we've talked about in a couple of podcasts, that, hey, to get strong, it's easy. There's plenty of books out there, there's plenty of information, plenty of programs you can follow. But then when it comes to, and conditioning as well, you can read Joe Friel's, Cyclist Bible, Triathlete's Bible, all these different books, and pretty standardized program is going to work for 90% of people to become significantly better on the muscular or metabolic side. But the challenge comes into having the two overlay, and how do we peak and balance and recover different, muscular and metabolic attributes at the same time without having too much negative influence on the other. So
that's right.
Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yep. So that's a warrior cycles. Now we're going into our last warrior cycle, and then after we finish our warrior cycle programming, of course, we're not just going to totally throw out that protocol, but what we are going to do is iterate upon that protocol to try to bring a categorically separate type of protocol into what Warrior already built. The Warrior programs are very effective programs based on the data that we've collected from our 300 plus local athletes here, and we just want to continue to iterate on that process so that our programming can continue to innovate.
Awesome.